There are structures on Earth that make engineers stop talking, not because they lack expertise, because the math does not add up, the tools did not exist, the methods cannot be replicated with modern technology, and when pressed for an explanation, the most qualified professionals in the world offer silence instead of answers. Some of these places were built thousands of years ago by civilizations we barely understand. Others involve precision that contemporary laser-guided systems struggle to match. Drop a comment right now telling us where you are watching from and whether you believe ancient builders had knowledge we have lost. We want to see how far this reaches. Among the 10 structures on this list, one involves stone blocks weighing over 1,200 tons moved uphill and placed with tolerances measured in fractions of millimeters. That is number 3. The structure at number 1 involves something even more impossible. Not the weight of the stones, not the alignment. Something about the location itself that no engineering team has been able to explain without invoking possibilities that rewrite what we think we know about human capability. This countdown runs from 10 to 1, and by the time we reach the end, at least one of these places will stay with you. Number 10, the Longyu Caves, Zhejiang Province, China. In 1992, a local farmer named Wu Anai began pumping water from what he assumed was a natural pond. The water drained for 17 days. What emerged beneath was not a pond. It was a hand-carved sandstone cavern covering 30,000 square meters. Then they found another, and another. By the time the site was fully explored, 24 massive artificial caves had been uncovered, each one carved with near-identical precision. The walls bear evenly spaced chisel marks angled at 60 degrees. The pillars supporting the ceiling are uniform. The rooms are massive, some with ceilings over 30 meters high. No historical records mention their construction. No tools were found, no debris either. When you carve out 1,000,000 cubic meters of rock, the waste has to go somewhere. It did not. Geologists from Zhejiang University examined the site. Their conclusion was not an explanation. It was a list of things that do not make sense. The sandstone is soft enough to carve but structurally weak. The caves should have collapsed, they have not. The spacing of the support pillars follows no known load-bearing pattern, yet the integrity has held for an estimated 2,000 years. Acoustic tests revealed something else. Sound behaves strangely inside the caves. Certain frequencies amplify, others vanish. Engineers cannot explain why spaces this large were carved with Bronze Age tools or how the builders removed evidence of 1,000,000 cubic meters of displaced stone. Visitors describe the air inside as unnaturally still. The carvings feel intentional. The silence feels designed. At least the Longyu caves are empty. The next place is still being used. Number 9, the Osirian Abydos, Egypt. Beneath the Temple of Seti lies a structure so old that Egyptologists cannot agree on who built it or when. The Osirian sits 50 feet below ground level. Its construction style does not match anything from the New Kingdom period. The blocks are megalithic, some weigh over 100 tons. They are fitted without mortar, edges flush, seams invisible. The walls are made of red granite and sandstone. The layout resembles the Valley Temple at Giza, not the ornate later temples of Seti's dynasty. Egyptologist Margaret Murray excavated the site in 1902. She reported that the Osirian appeared to be older than the temple built above it. Much older. Seti I ruled around 1290 BCE. The architectural style of the Osirian matches construction techniques from the Old Kingdom over 1,000 years earlier, but even that timeline is debated. Precision of the stonework rivals Giza. Some researchers believe it predates dynastic Egypt entirely. There are no inscriptions, no cartouches, no hieroglyphic records claiming credit for its construction. The chamber floods seasonally with groundwater from the Nile. The builders designed it that way. The central platform sits surrounded by a channel that fills and drains in rhythm with the river. Engineers cannot explain how blocks of that size were placed in a pit that deep with Bronze Age technology. Cranes capable of lifting 100-ton stones did not exist. Ramps would have required more material than the structure itself. Visitors who descend into the Osirian report the same sensation. The temperature drops, the sound changes. The stone feels older than the country built on top of it. If the Osirian's age is uncertain, the next structure's purpose is even less clear. Number 8, Carnac Stones, Brittany, France. Over 3,000 standing stones stretch across the fields of Karnak in rows so precise they look machine-aligned. The stones were raised around 4,500 BCE during the Neolithic period. That makes them older than Stonehenge, older than the Egyptian pyramids. The largest stone weighs 300 tons. It was quarried, transported, and erected by people using stone tools. The alignments run for over 3 kilometers. The rows are not random. They follow solar and lunar patterns with astronomical accuracy. Archaeologists from the French National Center for Scientific Research have mapped the site for decades. Their official position is that the stones served a ceremonial purpose. That explains nothing. Moving a 300-ton block of granite without wheels, without metal tools, without draft animals, requires engineering solutions that modern teams cannot replicate. In 1995, a French engineering team attempted to raise a 32-ton replica stone using only Neolithic methods. It took 200 people, wooden rollers, and ropes. The process took weeks. Karnak contains over 3,000 stones, some weigh 10 times what the replica weighed. There is no evidence of a population large enough to move them. No remains of the settlements that would be required to house and feed the labor force. Electromagnetic surveys of the site revealed another anomaly. The stones alter local magnetic fields. Compasses behave erratically near certain rows. Engineers cannot explain how a Neolithic culture achieved this level of precision or why they expended this much effort on rows of stones in an empty field. People who walk the rows report disorientation, a sense of being watched. Time feels wrong there. Karnak is alignments without explanation. The next place is precision without precedent. If you're still watching, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The structures ahead only get more impossible. A fortress built from stones weighing over 200 tons fitted without mortar. A complex beneath the desert carved from solid bedrock with laser-level precision. A set of islands built on a reef that should not support their weight. And at number 1, a structure that violates every principle of how we understand ancient construction. Number 7, Nan Madol, Pohnpei, Micronesia. Off the coast of a remote Pacific island, 92 artificial islands sit on a coral reef. The islands are built from stacked basalt columns, each one weighing several tons. The total weight of the structure exceeds 750,000 metric tons. Construction is estimated to have begun around 1200 CE. The basalt was quarried from the opposite side of Pohnpei and transported across open water. No one knows how. The stones were not shaped. They are natural hexagonal columns formed by cooling lava. The builders selected them, moved them, and stacked them into walls up to 50 feet high. The islands are separated by tidal canals. The entire complex covers 75 acres. Archaeologists call it the Venice of the Pacific. That does not explain the engineering. A single basalt column weighs up to 5 tons. There are thousands of them. The Pohnpeian people had no written language, no metal tools, no pulleys, and no large boats capable of moving stone across water. Oral tradition states that the stones were flown into place using magic. When pressed, locals do not offer engineering explanations. They repeat the same account. The stones moved through the air. Structural engineers who visit Nan Madol ask the same question. How did a culture without metallurgy, without wheels, without draft animals, move 750,000 tons of stone across water and stack it into walls that have withstood Pacific typhoons for 800 years? The coral reef beneath the islands is shallow and fragile. The weight should have caused subsidence. It has not. Visitors describe the site as oppressive. The air is heavy. The silence is absolute. The stones feel like they are waiting. Nan Madol is mass without method. The next place is depth without documentation. Number 6, the Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, Paolo, Malta. Beneath the streets of a residential neighborhood, 3 levels of chambers descend 35 feet into solid limestone. The hypogeum was discovered in 1902 during construction work. What workers found was not a basement. It was a fully developed subterranean temple carved between 4000 and 2500 BCE. Over 7,000 human remains were found inside. The chambers are carved, not built. Every curve, every niche, every corbelled ceiling was cut directly from bedrock using stone and bone tools. The oracle room is the most studied chamber. The walls are smooth. The acoustics are engineered. A voice speaking at certain frequencies resonates through the entire complex. Recordings made inside the oracle room reveal that sounds at 110 Hz amplify and sustain longer than physics predicts. Researchers from the University of Malta tested the effect. The resonance is intentional. The curves of the ceiling focus sound in ways that require an understanding of acoustics that should not exist in the Neolithic period. The carvings include spirals and honeycombed patterns. The ceiling of the main hall imitates corbelled masonry, even though the structure is carved from a single piece of bedrock. There was no structural need to carve false blocks into solid stone. It was a choice. Engineers cannot explain how Neolithic people carved 500 cubic meters of limestone from bedrock 35 feet underground without metal tools, without collapse, and with acoustic properties that modern architects struggle to replicate. Visitors are allowed inside in limited numbers. The air is cool. The resonance is palpable. People report feeling vibrations in their chest before any sound is made. The hypogeum is carved silence. The next structure is visible weight. Number 5, Baalbek, Bekaa Valley, Lebanon. In the foundation of a Roman temple complex lie 3 stones that should not exist. They are called the trilithon. Each block weighs approximately 800 tons. They were quarried half a mile away, transported uphill, and placed 20 feet above ground level in a foundation wall. The seams between them are nearly invisible. No mortar was used. The precision is sub-millimeter. The Romans built the Temple of Jupiter on top of the trilithon, but they did not build the foundation. Roman engineering records are extensive. They documented their projects in obsessive detail. Aqueducts, roads, bridges, Baalbek is mentioned. The foundation is not. The stones predate the Roman construction by an unknown margin. In the quarry nearby sits another block. The stone of the pregnant woman weighs 1,200 tons. It was shaped, dressed, and prepared for transport. Then it was abandoned. Modern cranes rated for 1,200 tons exist. There are fewer than a dozen in the world. They require prepared ground, support systems, and hydraulic stabilization. Moving a block that size uphill over uneven terrain and lifting it 20 feet into a wall is a feat no modern construction company will bid on. Engineers from Germany's Technical University of Munich studied Baalbek. Their report concluded that the construction is possible in theory. It would require technology and methods that leave no trace and no historical record. The stones rest in a seismic zone. Lebanon experiences regular earthquakes. The trilithon has not shifted. Visitors stand beside the blocks and lose their sense of scale. The stones do not look like something humans moved, they look like geology. Baalbek is mass made invisible by precision. The next place is scale made meaningless by depth. Number 4. Derinkuyu, Cappadocia, Turkey. In 1963, a man renovating his basement in the Derinkuyu district broke through a wall and found a tunnel. The tunnel led to a room. The room led to another tunnel. What he had discovered was an underground city extending 18 stories beneath the surface. Derinkuyu could hold 20,000 people. It included ventilation shafts, wells, food storage, livestock pens, wine presses, chapels, and a school. The city was carved entirely from soft volcanic rock. The ventilation system still functions. Air shafts descend over 180 feet, distributing fresh air to every level. Engineers cannot explain how builders working with hand tools calculated airflow for a city buried 18 stories deep. The tunnels include massive circular stone doors weighing up to 1,000 pounds. They roll into place from the inside, sealing off sections of the city. Once closed, they cannot be opened from the outside. Derinkuyu is one of over 200 underground cities discovered in Cappadocia. Most are connected by tunnels stretching for miles. Archaeologists believe construction began in the 8th century BCE, but the deepest layers may be older. No records describe who built it or why. The scale suggests existential threat. You do not carve a city 18 stories underground unless the surface is uninhabitable. Visitors descend narrow staircases into stone silence. The air is cool and dry. The carved rooms feel older than the civilizations that used them. Derinkuyu is depth without explanation. The next place is walls that should not stand. Number 3. Sacsayhuaman, Cusco, Peru. On a hill overlooking the former Inca capital sits a fortress built from stones weighing over 200 tons. The walls are assembled without mortar. The blocks are irregularly shaped, interlocking like a three-dimensional puzzle. The seams are so tight that a knife blade cannot fit between them. The precision is sub-millimeter across stones weighing hundreds of tons. The largest block at Sacsayhuaman weighs approximately 200 tons. It has 12 angles. Every surface mates perfectly with the surrounding stones. The Inca had no written language, no iron tools, and no wheels. Spanish chroniclers who witnessed the site in the 16th century asked the Inca how it was built. The Inca replied that it was already there when their civilization began. They did not build it. They did not know who did. Modern engineers cannot replicate the stonework. 1982, a Japanese construction team attempted to build a scale replica of a Sacsayhuaman wall. They used laser levels, diamond-tip saws, and hydraulic lifts. The project failed. The stones could not be shaped to the required tolerances. The irregular jointing made computer modeling impossible. The wall at Sacsayhuaman has withstood earthquakes that leveled Cusco multiple times. The stones shift during seismic events and settle back into place. Spanish colonial buildings fell. Sacsayhuaman stood. Geologists from the University of California examined the jointing. Their conclusion was that the construction demonstrates an understanding of seismic engineering that was not formalized until the 20th century. Visitors run their hands along the seams and feel nothing. The stones meet as if they grew together. Sacsayhuaman is precision that makes modern tools irrelevant. The next place is alignment that makes coincidence impossible. Number 2. The Pyramids of Giza, Giza Plateau, Egypt. The Great Pyramid is not the largest structure on this list. It is the most precisely aligned. The base is level to within 2.1 centimeters across 230 meters. The sides are aligned to true north with an error margin of 3/60 of a single degree. That level of accuracy requires instruments the Egyptians are not supposed to have possessed. The pyramid contains approximately 2.3 million stone blocks. The average weight is 2.5 tons. Some blocks weigh over 80 tons. They were quarried, transported, and placed with such precision that seams are nearly invisible. Egyptologist Mark Lehner spent decades documenting construction techniques. His conclusion is that the builders used copper tools, wooden sledges, and ramps. That explains the material culture. It does not explain the tolerances. Laser scanning completed in 2015 revealed that the sides of the Great Pyramid are not flat. They are slightly concave. Each face curves inward by a fraction of a degree. The curvature is invisible to the naked eye but measurable with modern instruments. The purpose is unknown. The effect is that the pyramid has 8 sides, not 4. This feature is only visible from the air at dawn and dusk during the equinoxes. Modern architects cannot explain how Bronze Age builders carved concave planes across structures 146 meters tall using tools that leave no margin for error. The internal chambers are aligned to stellar patterns. The King's Chamber aligns with Orion's belt. The shafts point to specific stars with precision that requires long-term astronomical observation. Engineers cannot explain how blocks weighing 80 tons were lifted 60 meters into the air and placed in the Grand Gallery with clearances measured in millimeters. Visitors enter the king's chamber and hear nothing. The granite absorbs sound. The resonance frequency of the room matches the human heartbeat at rest. The Great Pyramid is alignment beyond capability, but it is not number one. The structure at number one is something else entirely. Number 1. Göbekli Tepe, Şanlıurfa Province, Turkey. In 1994, a shepherd noticed carved stones protruding from a hillside. Excavation revealed a temple complex built 11,600 years ago. That date is not disputed. It is confirmed through radiocarbon dating and geological analysis. Göbekli Tepe predates agriculture, it predates pottery, it predates metalworking, it predates writing, it predates every known civilization by 6,000 years. The site consists of massive T-shaped limestone pillars arranged in circular formations. The largest pillars weigh 20 tons. They were quarried, carved, transported, and erected by hunter-gatherers. The carvings on the pillars depict animals, abstract symbols, and human hands. The detail is extraordinary. Foxes, scorpions, serpents, and vultures are rendered with anatomical accuracy. The people who built Göbekli Tepe were not supposed to have the social organization required for projects of this scale. Settlements require agriculture. Agriculture allows surplus. Surplus allows specialization. Göbekli Tepe inverts the entire model. It was built before any of that existed. Archaeologist Klaus Schmidt led excavations until his death in 2014. His conclusion was that Göbekli Tepe was not built by a civilization. It created civilization. The need to build the temple created the need for organized labor. Organized labor created the need for agriculture. The site was not abandoned. It was deliberately buried. Around 10,000 years ago, the builders filled the entire complex with dirt and rubble, preserving it perfectly. No one knows why. Ground-penetrating radar reveals that 95% of the site remains unexcavated. What has been uncovered so far is only the beginning. Engineers cannot explain how people without metal tools shape 20-ton limestone pillars with carvings that require precision chiseling. They cannot explain how a nomadic culture organized the labor. They cannot explain the purpose. And they cannot explain why it was buried intentionally as if the builders wanted it found later. Visitors walk among the pillars and feel the age, not the centuries, the millennia. Göbekli Tepe is not ancient, it is pre-ancient. It rewrites the timeline of human achievement, and no engineer will say definitively how it was built, because the methods required did not exist yet, and the culture capable of it was not supposed to exist at all. 10 structures, 8 countries, one thread connecting them all, precision that modern tools cannot replicate, masses that modern machinery cannot move, alignments that require knowledge we did not think existed. These places do not fit into the story we have been told about human development. They are too early, too advanced, too precise. Which structure was the most impossible to you? Drop your answer in the comments. The next video goes even deeper into places that make experts go silent. You will not want to miss it. Thank you for staying with us through all 10 of these impossible places. What you have just experienced is not a collection of mysteries for entertainment. It is evidence that the story of human progress is incomplete. The structures we have covered exist in plain sight. They are not hidden. Millions of people visit them every year, yet the mainstream narrative around their construction remains unchanged. Why? Because accepting the true implications would require us to rewrite everything we think we know about ancient capability, ancient organization, and ancient knowledge. Consider what we have established. Long-used caves were carved with precision that matches modern laser work, yet no records exist. The Osirian sits beneath layers of later construction, its age unknown but its purpose deliberately obscured. Karnak stones align with celestial patterns with an accuracy that requires mathematics we associate with the modern era. Nan Madol exists on a reef that should not support its weight. The Hypogeum's acoustic engineering rivals contemporary concert halls. Baalbek's foundation stones were placed with tolerances that modern engineers hesitate to attempt. Derinkuyu extends 18 stories down, ventilated by a system that still functions perfectly. Sacsayhuaman's irregular joinery demonstrates seismic engineering principles formalized only in the 20th century. Giza's concave sides serve a purpose we still do not understand. And Göbekli Tepe was built by people who should not have possessed the organizational capacity to build it, then deliberately buried by those same people as if they knew it would be found again. These are not anomalies. This is a pattern, and patterns suggest intention. Intention suggests knowledge. Knowledge suggests transmission. Who transmitted this knowledge? When was it transmitted? And what happened to the people who possessed it? These questions remain unanswered because we have not been asking them. We have instead accepted the official explanations, thin as they are, chalk it up to coincidence, attribute it to lost techniques, invoke the magic word ingenuity and move on. But you have watched this far. You have seen the evidence. You know that precision of this magnitude does not emerge from nowhere. Organization of this scale does not develop without precedent. And knowledge of this sophistication does not appear in the archaeological record without antecedents. The structures on this list were built by someone. That someone had methods. That someone had knowledge. That someone had a reason. The reason might have been practical, building shelter, creating water systems, engineering defenses. Or the reason might have been something else entirely, something ceremonial, something astronomical, something that connected them to forces we no longer recognize or understand. What we know with certainty is this: the builders of these structures were not primitive, they were not lucky, they were not randomly successful, they were intentional, they were skilled, and they were operating at a level of sophistication that should make us humble. The difference between us and them is not capability. It is documentation. We have photographs, we have blueprints, we have written records of every step. They left only the structures themselves, and those structures are speaking. They are speaking in the language of stone and mathematics and precision. And what they are saying is that the past is far more complex than we have been taught. So we return to the question posed at the beginning: where are you watching from, and what do you believe? Do you accept the official narrative? Do you think these were built through methods we understand? Or do you suspect, as many do, that something crucial was lost, that some knowledge, some technique, some understanding of how to move matter and organize labor and achieve precision beyond our current tools was possessed and then forgotten? Drop your answer in the comments. Tell us your theory. Tell us what you believe these structures represent. Tell us what you think happened to the people who built them. The conversation matters. Your perspective matters, because these places belong to all of us. They are not the property of archaeologists or engineers or academics. They are the inheritance of humanity, and they are still waiting to be understood. The next video in this series will take you to places even more inexplicable than these 10. We will examine structures so impossible that experts refuse to discuss them on camera. We will look at sites where conventional dating methods have produced results so contradictory that entire chronologies are in question. We will walk through places where the very ground beneath our feet seems to resist our understanding. And we will ask the hard questions that institutions have been avoiding for decades. Subscribe now so you do not miss it. Turn on notifications, because once you see what we are about to show you, you will never look at ancient sites the same way again. The truth has always been there, in stone, in earth, in the structures built by hands we will never know, waiting for us to finally look and finally listen.